The first time I saw Rowan's ears, she was standing in my driveway like she owned it. Clipboard in hand, oversized sunglasses, and a voice that cracked like a whip. She barked at me about my fishing trailer, quoting HOA bylaws as if they were gospel. I told her flat out she was wrong, that my property wasn't part of any HOA. I'd checked that fact before I bought the place. She didn't believe me. She stalked away, heels hammering the sidewalk. And 2 days later, a letter arrived in my mailbox. Violation notice, signed by her. Then another. Then a fine. I ignored them. Weeks later, she dragged me into small claims court. Her confidence oozed as she laid out her case, talking like she was auditioning for a TV courtroom drama. But I had something she didn't expect. Proof. Property records, plat maps, a notarized developer's letter. When the judge compared my evidence to her shaky arguments, his disgust was obvious. He dismissed the case, warning her that attempting to enforce rules over non-members was no small matter. I thought that would end it. I was wrong. Soon after, a city inspector showed up at my door, clearly embarrassed to be there. Someone had filed a complaint about unpermitted construction. He walked through my garage, saw everything was legal, and closed the case on the spot. But as he left, he admitted the complaint had come on Glenage HOA letterhead. I knew then that Rowan wasn't finished. The escalation came fast. One morning, I walked outside to find bright orange impound stickers plastered across my trailer. A tow truck idled at the curb, the driver fidgeting with his tablet. I confronted him. He claimed the HOA called it in. I pointed at my property line stakes and told him if he touched the hitch, he'd be dealing with the sheriff. He backed off. That night, I installed more security cameras. A few days later, my neighbor Elise knocked quietly on my door. She looked nervous, glancing over her shoulder before stepping inside. She told me Rowan was trying to redraw the neighborhood boundaries, planning to annex my property and others into the HOA. Worse, she bragged about having a contact in zoning who could make paperwork disappear. Elise didn't know names, but she knew it smelled rotten. I went straight to the county recorder's office. Sure enough, there was a new filing, fraudulent, with my lot listed as part of the HOA. The signature belonged to Doyle, a zoning supervisor I'd worked with years ago. A slippery guy, always bending rules. I took the documents to Commissioner Vargas, someone I trusted. She studied them and said the signatures were forgeries. That was enough to trigger an investigation. Soon, deputies were at my door taking statements. They saw the attempted towing footage, the forged annexation paperwork, and my evidence. They called it fraud and possible conspiracy. That night, unmarked cruisers parked outside Rowan's house. The next week, panic spread through the HOA board as members resigned. But Rowan clung to her power like a drowning woman clutching driftwood. The county ethics hearing was brutal. I laid out my evidence piece by piece. Rowan stammered, blaming county staff. A commissioner cut her off, accusing her of forging documents and abusing her authority. The ruling came down hard. The Glenage HOA charter revoked, all fines nullified, and Rowan referred for criminal investigation. I thought I could breathe again, but the storm wasn't done. At a neighborhood block party that Friday, a former board member named Dana approached me. She confessed that before resigning, she'd noticed $27,000 missing from the HOA's reserve account. Rowan had transferred it to a fake company. Dana handed me a flash drive with copies of the ledger and emails. That night, I dug through the files. Rowan had been planning this from the start, annexing properties, fabricating implied consent, even outlining strategies to enforce rules retroactively. I sent everything to Commissioner Vargas. The next day, she called me. Rowan hadn't just stolen money from homeowners. She'd tried to bill the county for nearly $9,000 in infrastructure improvements. That was felony-level fraud. From there, things moved fast. Investigators came to my house, walked property lines, collected unopened HOA letters I'd saved. A week later, news broke. Former HOA president under investigation for fraud. Everyone in Glenage knew exactly who they meant. Neighbors stopped by, shaken but relieved, asking what came next. The grand jury hearing confirmed what we all suspected. Formal charges were filed: fraud, falsification of public records, misappropriation of funds. Rowan's HOA was not only dissolved, but banned from reorganizing under the same name. But then came a deeper cut. Investigators executed a search warrant at her home and storage unit. They found bank records, forged contracts, even files on residents she considered soft targets. My name was in a folder labeled Leverage. She'd hired a private investigator to dig into my employment and voter records. The thought that she'd been tracking me chilled me to the bone. In court, she looked small, drained of her earlier fire. The judge listed off new charges: wire fraud, harassment, falsification of documents. Her lawyer tried to plead stress, but the judge shut him down. A full audit of HOA finances was ordered. Meanwhile, Doyle, her ally in zoning, resigned and was later indicted on misconduct charges. The community, free of the HOA's grip, began to breathe again. Porches filled with mismatched chairs, garden flags waved in yards, and children chalked the sidewalks without fear of a violation notice. Neighbors gathered at the park to form a voluntary council. No fines, no titles, just neighbors helping neighbors. By summer, Rowan's trial began. The prosecution laid out years of calculated deception. Over 30 witnesses testified. Forensic accountants traced missing money. On the fifth day, the verdict came back. Guilty on all counts. 6 years in prison, restitution of $32,000, and a ban from ever holding leadership again. The courtroom was silent as she was led away. Justice didn't need applause. Back home, I looked at my trailer sitting in the driveway. It wasn't just a trailer anymore. It was a reminder of how far someone would go to control what wasn't theirs, and how a community, when pushed, could push back harder. Elise came by with a petition to turn the old HOA office into a community space. I signed without hesitation. Later that night, I stood on the curb, the street calm and quiet. No more violation letters, no more threats, no more clipboards in my driveway. Just neighbors, just peace. For the first time since I'd moved in, it felt like home.